Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. So in this video, I'm going to discuss how to work with the variables in Power Apps. Okay, so if you come to the Power Apps and if you are starting with the blank application, so there might be a need, you need to hold the data, you need to pass the data to the other pages also. So in that case, we can use the variables. So variables are used to store the values. Variables are used to store the values. So in Power App, okay, in Power Apps, we have three types of variable. So let me open the notepad. I'll write here the types so that we can refer this. So first type is a global variable. Okay. And this is created using the set function. Okay. Then there is something called local variable. So this is actually not available in Power Apps, but yeah. So there is something called a context update function. Context update function. You can use this function to create a variable that is available for the specific screen. So if you create a global variable, it can be accessed through the application on any screen. Okay, so accessed in app, and this is can be accessed on the screen only. Right, we will understand the purpose and everything. And then there is something called collection type variables are there. Okay, so this is again created using either a collect function or clear collect function, right? So now let's start creating the global variable. If you starting with an application, so if you come, there is a tab called global. I mean, there is a tab called variable. So here you will be able to view. You are not going to create anything from here. So if you want to create, you can input. You can use something. So just say when I'll be clicking on this button. Okay, when I'll be clicking on this button. So let's say this is like variable. It's not like you need to use variable and all. I'm just, or let me say calculate here. I'm going to perform something. Okay, so calculate. I'm going to calculate something here with this button. Okay, and okay, obviously to perform the calculation, what we need to do is we need to use the text input box. Let me pick the input box. So this is like I don't want to keep anything there. Okay, let me create a copy of this, and this is the another one, and even I don't want to keep anything. So I would like to perform the calculation. I would like to perform the calculation and store that value. See, if I perform the calculation here simply, so text input one dot text plus text input one dot text, right? So this will calculate, but how will I use that value? See, this will calculate, but I'm not going to show that, show this value, or I can't show this value if I want to show this. Okay, so if I run this application, you can see if I enter 100, if I enter 200, it is going to calculate. But if I say calculate, I wanted to show this value. I wanted to access that value somewhere else in the application. So how you can do that? To do that, you need a variable. Okay. So let me keep this on the top and let me move this up. Okay. So what I will do, I will to hold this data, I will use the set function. This calculated value. Okay. Let me go back, give the space, and here I will say set, and then I'll give the variable as a total. Okay, this is what my variable. I'll give the comma. This is my expression for the variable, or this will be the value. This function is going to set. It will calculate and it will store the value in the total. As I said, variables are used to store the values. Right. Then I may want to access that value. I'm just going to show that value here. So in case of this is like the total, and I'll use ampersand here, and I'll use the total variable. Even if I add the space and this is how I wanted to show the value, right? So let me run the application, click on this. So it is giving me the total here, right? If I change this, I'll make this 400. If I run this, so this is giving me the 600 here, right? So this is how the variable is created. And if you use the set function, that is nothing but the variable is available across the application, meaning, see, this is screen one. If you add new screen, you will be able to access that variable here. If I want to show that variable here, okay, I am just using the text label, and if I try to say here total, you can see I'm able to access. Even if I go here and okay, let me add uh, icon so that I'll be in a position to jump to the next screen. So let me down and go to the icon, then let's say arrow, and here I will add a function so that I can switch on the navigate on the screen too, right? And any kind of transition you want, you can do. And then context. Okay, so I'm not going to update the context here. Right. So what I will do, I will simply run the application. Okay. And I will say this is 800. Let me say calculate. And if I go to the screen too, you can see that same number is here. Again, okay, on screen two, I would like to add one more icon so that I can go back to its original position. So let let me, okay, this is the what I don't want. This is what I don't want. So from icon, if I pick the back arrow, and here I will simply say back. Okay, I don't want to use any kind of transition. So if I use only back function, it is going to move back to its original screen, right? Then again, I will say this is 1000. So 1000, and this, if I perform, this is 1800. If I go to the screen too, it is showing. So this is how, meaning the once you create a variable using the set function, that can be across. That can be across, or that can be available across the entire application. So use case is like you can store the user role, even themes, on some kind of settings, and that can be used throughout the application. Throughout the application. Now, okay, this is about the creating a global variable. It can be accessed from any screen, and it is good for the user preferences for the role or app wide settings. If you want to store the values of setting and all, this is good, right? Then we have something called context variable. Context variable. So that kind of, if you create that kind of variable, so that will be available in the same screen only. So if I come here and I'll set this. Okay, so okay, so I will use update context, and you can type here like okay, as an final. Okay, final is my name, just a name for the variable, and then here I can use this kind of approach. Okay, and you I should do this in this way, right? So this is the final, and I would like to store the data in key and value pair. Okay, so first value I'm storing as an okay, let me do this one like this. Not okay, not this. So I just wanted to hold the data from not this, maybe from the other, or from the text input too. Okay, from the text input too only. That 800 kind of value you can see on the screen, I wanted to hold that. So I will say value 2 is my key, and here I will say text input. This is underscore dot text, right? So this is the value, right? But this will be, I wanted to show you that this is accessible in the same screen, but this is not accessible outside of the screen. Okay, so if I go and if I add the text label, and this is input, if I go to the display, so there is something called text label. On this text label, you will be able to see the value 2, like value 2 space colon space, and this is like value 2, right? So you can see, okay, this is not it executed. Let me run this. If I run this, okay, even same thing, I'll try to access outside the screen. So if I copy that here, okay, you can see that it is showing the error. The name isn't valid. Value 2 is not recognized. Actually, that is not available on this another screen. But here it will work. Meaning when I create a variable using the update context, so that variable value can be available for this screen only, for this current screen only. Okay, and this kind of meaning this update context is actually used for the current screen properties, or I can say I used for the temporary UI state values to create the hide and hide and show kind of activity, right? So here, okay, let me say value 2, not this. Okay, so let's say here, if I run this application, I'm able to see 800 as my value. But let's say you may want to use this in one of the property, you will be able to use that. So what I will do, I will say this is equals to true. Okay, and what I will do, I will go to the value to in this text box. Then there is something called we have a properties. Okay, and let me keep this on single line. Okay, so we have a properties pane. If I go to this, there is something called visible or not. See if I hide this. Okay, this is hidden, right? This is hidden. But I would like to set the visibility property. I would like to set the visibility property of this. Okay, this is not there now. So if I see, okay, this is label 3. And this property, visibility property, is based on this calculate, right? So what I wanted to do is, see if I run the application, so this I'm able to see. I wanted to show this value to entire tab uh, when I click on this. When I click on this calculate button, once this get calculated, or maybe uh, I can do this with the total also. This is not needed. Okay, so I wanted to show the total here. I wanted to show the total when I will click on the calculate, right? So this kind of things are uh, possible. So I will say total, and this is the variable total show is equals to true. By default value for this property, if I go and if I search for the visible, so it is true. Okay, if it is true, let me make this as a false. Okay, okay, but initial value, this is false. Here, instead of this, if I use the total show value, this value, total show value. Okay, and this is like, even update context can be used, or we can use something else also. Bed, and you can see, okay, that is not showing icon 1 label. Where is the icon 1? Icon 1, this is the label 1 to show the total, right? Its visibility is not there. Okay, let me use this total show value. Okay, so now if I run the application, and if I say, see, nothing is calculated. If nothing is calculated, then I don't want to show the total and all, right? So if I click on this, it will calculate, and once it gets calculated, I would like to show that value, right? So this is how you can use the update context, right? You will create a variable and you will use that in the properties of the same page to manipulate these kind of properties by using the PowerFX language, right? So this is about the context variable. Context variable is limited to the current screen. Global variable that is defined with the set function is available across any screen, right? Now there is something called collection. Okay, there is something called collection. So you may have the form to submit the data, but let's say you don't want to submit this data at the initial stage. You don't want to submit the data at initial stage. So what I will do, I will use this. Okay, let me let me keep this. Let me add new screen, new blank screen, and I don't have data here, right? I don't have data here. So what I can do is I can add the data. Okay, this is the data. Right. Now, I would like to hold that data into my, okay, into my one of the variable. Okay. Here, let me go back. Okay, this value 2 is not available there. So I'm good to remove this. And we saw how to use set, how to use, this is where we use the set and update context. So let me use the collection, meaning to create the collection, I would like to use the this. variable, then employee personal info. This is the collection name, or you can give your name also. Okay. I will say my details. Okay. Let me say my details. Fine. And here you can create an item that is initially that will be named as the name, as even I can store the value like Brahma, right? This is the one item. Another item for your collection, for my collection, is like okay. So I will say DOB, and then I'll go to this, and I will say 21st hyphen 1992, and the next one is okay. So even I can say this is like 02 hyphen 03 hyphen 1993. Okay, this is the date of birth for me. Right. And let me say here the next item is uh, education. If you ask me, so I will say master or master of engineering. Right. So this is how I created a record. See, I written a variable, meaning I written a function here to create this. Okay. Here we can enter the dynamic value. The way we access the input, text input and all, we can do that also. Right. And so this is again another kind of table. If you create that, okay, let me run this, and if I say calculate, that got created. That got created. Now that will act like a table. If you go to this on left side, there is something called variable. So if you go to this, so there is something called screen one. Okay, on the screen one, there is total show. Okay, this is the context variable. And if I show this, this is like a global variable, right? The using the one which we have created using the set function. This is what we created using the update context functions. This is available on the screen. So scope and all you can see. So here, if you go to the collection, you will be able to see my details. Okay. Now what I would like to do is I would like to go to the screen 3, and I'll click on this. And even if I go to the tables, okay, all these are from the, if I say my detail, okay, I cannot use this here, but I can use the uh, collect to store the data temporarily. So that will be available. That is not like permanent, and that is going to store the data, but you can collect the multiple records in this table. This is the virtual table, we can say, and this will be available till the time that I'm running this application. Once I close this application, this will be deleted automatically, right? So this is available. Okay. And now if I try to access that, okay, if I try to access this in the screen 3, so let me say text label. Okay. And here, if I want to show my details dot name, okay, where is that label? Okay. So my details, it is showing, it is fine. But if I wants to show the value, okay, this is not the problem. How it can show the one value? Let me pick the table. Okay, instead of that, so because that is a table, it's not a one value. So if I go to the display or from the table, okay, from the layout, okay, let me say data table. I know, okay, from the layout itself, it is available. And oh, it is asking for the Again, it needs a table. Okay. So if I say here my details, if I use this, and if I use DOB education and all, right? So this is how I can have the records. Okay. So what I did, okay. So each column is created with the a different record. See, if I use this, meaning, see, you can have the comma separated values here. So if I go to the screen two, sorry, screen one, and if I go to the context, so I created a record, different records. Okay, so this curly bracket is used for the record. Okay, instead of this, if I should have used the comma only. Okay, and then if I copy this, okay, if I copy this, and if I create a new item, okay, if I create a new item, so it's like this, and right, and here I will say Bachelor of Engineering. Okay, this is how many two records I have created. I was trying to create more than one, but I used different column names there, different fields used. So if I write like this, so this is my collect function, and this is the one row or one curly bracket is for each row, right? And now if I go to the screen three, now if I go to the screen three, okay, so this is not getting updated. Let me remove this, even remove this, and let me select the my details. Okay, I need to remove this entire once we assign delete. Let me delete this table. Okay, and now again I would like to add, go to the layout. Inside the layout there is something called the data tables. Here I can, okay, oh, is that not available? It is available, right? Oh, and it is showing. Okay, if I go to, and if I see view data, this is not yet updated. Why? Because that application is not ran so far. So if I'm on the screen one, if I say calculate, this got updated now, and here, if I go to the data, and if I say my details, it is not reading the source. Sometime before it was reading. Okay, now it is showing the 5 rows. Okay, it is fine. This is even fine for me. But let me, no, not, I don't want to create new table. Why should I use this? Items. Okay, I will type here, not there. If I'm not getting that, I'll type here. And yeah, why? Because see, that is not a connector and all. That's why. And if I use the add fields here, okay, all these fields I am going to add. So you will be able to see this is how it going to work. If I come to this, if I select the table, let me increase the size. Okay. And then let me increase the font size to 20. Okay, fine. Let me move this down. Okay. So this is how data will look. Right. Now what I did earlier, I collected something. Earlier I collected something. Now this is what stored here. Okay. Now if I sorry. Okay. So now if I go back to the screen one, if I run the application, and if I add something, even if I go and if I update something, if I change the value instead of this, let me say, and this is the pulse, for example, this is like 1609, and this is again Bachelor of Engineering, right? And here I will say, right? And this is how that's the thing. Okay. So again, if I run the application and if I update this using the collect, what it will do, it will collect those records. It is not going to clear the older one. So if I come here and if I say I can see 7 records, if I view the table, you can see this is what the last 2 records I have added. Right. Okay, it is fine. I added that. Now I'm able to see all these records even here. Right. It is fine. But let's say there is something, meaning, see, this is how you can use. Meaning one of the form you can create, and from that form you can collect all the inputs into the collection using the collect function. See, collect function is going to collect, right? But if you want to clear the collection, if you want to clear the collection, so what I will do, I will use here a button. Okay, let me say button, and on select, let me say clear data, and the name is my details. Okay. So now what it says, text value instead. Even if I say clear only, the source is my details. Okay. So that clear data is for the different purpose. That may be for the text, form text, right? And if I run this application, if I click on this, it will clear everything from my collection, right? So this is the way you can create a collection. Then one more way here to create a collection type variable. But see, every time when you click, that should change your that should change, meaning that should clear the data, existing data, and it should add the new record. If you want to do that kind of thing, you can do. Okay. So let's say here that is possible using the clear collect function. Instead of collect, you can use the only clear collect. That's the difference. Rest of the things are fine. See, but whatever the number of times I will click this, it will add those many times. Okay, the data. And if I go to the screen 3, you will be in a position to see, okay, this data is getting added. Now, if I go back and if I change these values to Brahma, okay, and I will say Charu here. Okay. So now if I run this, if I click here, you will see that data will earlier data. See, when I was using the collect function, it was collecting all the inputs in the collection. Now I am using the ClearCollect. If you see the function here, ClearCollect. So it is going to clear the older collection and it is going to add new one. So it changed the older name was an Aditya to Brahmanchar. Right. So this is how even I can run this and clear everything. Right. So this is how collection can be used. Collection type variable can be used in PowerApps. Right. So collection can be created or collection type variable can be created using the collect function or clear collect function that is going to store the multiple records like a table, and it is even useful for displaying the data in galleries or filtering drop downs. Right. Then okay, so same functions, meaning if you create any variable using the set function, you need to use the same function to update its value from anywhere else, meaning from the other button also. Even if you create the variable using the update context, you are good to use the same function to update its value. Even if you use update context, okay, update context is done. So if you use the to work with the collection, you can use the patch function also. So to add the values and all, right? To update the record in a collection, you can use the patch function. Or if you want to replace everything, you can use the clear collect. So there are these are the functions. Even if you want to clear the values of these variables and all, you can set their values to blank using the set function and update functions. So this is how, meaning see, to update this value of this variable, you can use the set function. You can use update context function to update the value of total show variable, right? Even you can use, but with respect to collection, if you want to update something, you should use the patch function. That's it. And we will see, definitely we will see how to use the patch function. Even I discussed in past with the database, but we will do that with respect to the collection also. And now onwards, we will start working with the dataverse and all. So to subscribe for the webcam to learn the Power Platform in depth. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day. Happy learning.